Yo, what up, YouTube? It's DLAZ. I got another video for you guys today, and we're focusing on a hand that I played from one of my streams where I make a big hero call with bottom pair on the river. I go through my thought process. I think it's going to be very valuable for some of you guys on how to think through those spots and come to the right decision most of the time. Enjoy. Okay, here's the situation. We're 1 of 24 in CoinPoker.com's daily 200, which now actually is always a 12.5K guarantee. This was when it was an 8K guarantee. And we opened the big blind as 1 of 24 into 2 of 24 off of around 75 bigs effective with the big blind, who ends up defending here, and we get the 6-5-4 flush draw flop, and we flop bottom pair with the backdoor flush draw. Let's get to the video.
Not a lot of 3-bets. Interesting flop. I probably do some betting with the backdoor flush draw and the bottom pair. Like your hand's worth a decent bit, but I'm just gonna check.
All right, so right off the bat, I actually make a mistake here. I'm coming clean. We're going to see in the sim ace-4 suited, and I say it out loud and still decide to make the snap decision to check anyway, that I probably should do some betting. The reality is this exact combination, ace-4 backdoor flush draw, should always be betting for a multitude of reasons. It has to do with the hands that would continue to the bet, which include a lot of backdoor diamonds with a gutter that we dominate when the board runs out diamond, and we just win that many more chips from. There's also just plenty of worse hands that would either check raise that we actually dominate, that have backdoor equity again, and or call that we are ahead of. So ace-4 diamonds with that backdoor equity, withstanding check raises, coolering certain hands on certain runouts, makes it a candidate for betting. The other two combos, ace-4 without the backdoor flush draw or ace-4-0, would always be checking here correctly. But this exact combination should be betting, like I say out loud. It's just a hand that's worth a decent bit. Now we get to the turn after making the mistake of checking flop. Face a bet. I don't love his sizing. I can get into turn barrel sizes as well in a future video.
Yet, guys.
And then we get here to the river, which pairs the 6 and face a bet of 10 big blinds. So he bets the turn, bets the river. This video's focus is on how to decide if to make a hero call and whether your hand specifically is a good candidate or not. Let's go to the sim and we'll talk about this a bit more in depth, and then we'll come back and see the results here at the end. Okay, so we're starting off here with a flop thanks to the AI on GTO Wizard. I have put it all out here, and right off the bat, I just want to mention the bet sizing on the flop is 67% pot and check. That's the strategy that I would play here, and that's the strategy that the solver has generated for us. Ace-4 suited, you can see with the backdoor flush draw, diamonds right below my video camera, does always want to bet. That's why it's colored in brown, and the other two combos without the backdoor flush draw are always checking. So that's a mistake that I made. I touched a little bit on it just before, and I could do a whole video in the future on, you know, a spot like this and go into more detail. Offsuit 9 peel off on the turn. And I had to adjust the AI. The AI gave us a 40% block sizing here on the turn. I adjusted it to the size that he actually uses. And we can see that ace-4 suited is always calling here on the turn. Ace-4-0, same thing. Actually, sometimes raising. But again, that's not necessarily the part I want to touch on this video. For our purposes, I want to talk about the river. And another, I had to also adjust the river strategy because the sizing did not match up to what player ends up using. But the main focus here is he ends up betting around 10 big blinds on the river, and I come to the conclusion that ace-4 suited is a good hand to hero call. And I want to talk now about how I came to this conclusion. So the most important thing to consider when making a hero call is whether or not the opponent in general is capable of finding bluffs or enough bluffs. Usually that answer in most of the player pools that you guys are going to be playing in is going to be no, unless it's a board or run out that it's very, very easy to find natural hands that are going to want to start bluffing turn and follow through on the river. And those hands are pretty easy to find. It's going to be hands that have an 8 in them and a 7 in them on a board like 6-5-4. That was my initial reaction, was the bluffs are pretty natural to find here. You want to have removal on a straight, on the nut straight, most importantly, and on the turn have equity to improve to a straight on the river. And then when you brick on the river, those are going to be the obvious hands now that feel obligated to bet again and get certain ace highs and king highs to fold. So that's the first step, is to decide if the bluffs are easy enough to find when thinking about population tendencies. And here I think is a good example of a spot where they are very, very natural and easy to find. The next thing to consider is, does my hand have removal on the hands that want to bluff turn and river, and also have removal on the value hands that he's going to be betting for value on the turn and following through on the river to extract value. Ace-4 suited is a good candidate that does both. So we first off already determined that it's a spot that's easy to find bluffs, and now we're determining that ace-4 suited is a good hand because it unblocks those natural bluffs and it also blocks their value. By unblocking their natural bluffs, the hands that want to start bluffing turn here and following through on the river are not going to be ace high. Ace high would be relatively disincentivized to want to start betting for the big blind on the turn, because it's going to be a big bulk of our overall checking back range on the flop is going to be ace high hands that now fold to some turn aggression. And if they do get called on the turn, they definitely don't necessarily want to continue on the river because they could actually be ahead of also king highs. So having an an ace here is, from our perspective, a positive because they should not be bluffing ace highs. Their bluff should be coming from queen highs, jack highs, 10 highs that have an 8 or a 7 in them. And because their goal is to get us to fold bottom pairs and ace highs ourselves that check back flop, call turn. Secondly, our hand doesn't have a 7 or an 8 in them. That's probably the most important card to consider here. So if we feel that they're going to be bluffing mostly with hands that have removal on a straight, then we don't want to have one of those cards in our hand when it comes to making a big hero call. So having the 4 here instead of ace 7 or ace 8 obviously makes our hand a more reasonable hero call, unblocking both ace highs because they shouldn't be bluffing ace highs. So it's going to weight them to having more of like a queen high, jack high, 10 high hand, and unblocking a 7 or 8, weighting them more to having those 3 cards I just listed with a 7 or an 8, making it again a premier hero call. Now on the flip side, our hand also has removal on their strongest value. Yeah, we don't block 7-8, but we do have removal on hands like 6-4 that would be very happy to bet turn, improves to a full house on the river. We have removal on hands like 9-4. We have removal on hands like ace-9 and ace-6, all hands that could bet turn and bet river. So we're blocking a big bulk of their value range and we're unblocking a big bulk of their bluffing range. So when both of these things are true, plus we already determined that it's the spot that population should relatively easily find the bluffs in, it's a recipe for a really, really strong candidate to make a hero call. So we're going to find out now together after he bets 10 big blinds if ace-4 suited should be calling. And you can see here the solver does agree. So it's calling here around 60% of the time and actually raising all in as a bluff because, again, blocking the really strong hands. You know, we're targeting 9x to fold and even maybe 6x to fold and 7-8 to fold. Some people might overfold those sort of hands here. Not that the solver necessarily would do that. And jamming, but majority calling and doing a sliver of folding. And we don't have ace-4 suited here of diamonds because we should have bet the flop, but the solver is basically saying the same thing here, that it should be always calling, almost never folding, making it a premier hero call. Now, the results don't necessarily matter. When you make a good hero call, it's because you want to increase the odds as much as possible to make the correct decision and see a hand that you beat. But that doesn't mean always. It means most of the time. So you're going to sometimes make a good hero call and get the result you don't want. That doesn't mean that your play was bad. It just means that that one time they had it. But over time, if you run through this process in your mind, I promise you'll start to see the results of making more hero calls correctly in game, feeling like less of a station and more of a skilled professional poker player. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Happy to do more videos just like this one and others in the future. Thank you. Let's go back to the video. All right, we're back here on the river. We're facing the 10 big blind bet. Now let's see how I'm a genius and make the correct hero call as per the solver.
Yeah, just gonna pay.
Ah, fuck. I get wrecked. Anyway, the next hand, I get ace king. The guy 3-bets me. I jam. I win and get 7 of the 10 big blinds back anyway. But that's not the point. The point is the call was good. I hope you guys learned something here, kind of how I think out these spots. Adios.
He's still not over the main event bust. You know what I'm doing.